Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My parents come from a conservative town and were married off to each other when my mom fell pregnant with me and my twin sister, Julie. My parents' marriage was a disaster and didn't last long, meaning that they had only stayed together until the two of them got their college degrees, where they met their respective partners and divorced once they landed a job. Before that, they gave birth to another sibling of mine, Mario, and went their separate ways. Well, this obviously meant that Julie, Mario, and I would now have to spend time with not just my dad and mom separately, but also with their partners. We all thought this would be okay and that we would be able to adjust to this change as we were young and just were enthusiastic about a lot of things. Well, as one can imagine, living with parents and their partners belonging to their early 20s was a mess, especially when it came to my dad. Him and his partner truly did not know how to care for us without the presence of my mom. Well, that is who we will be focusing on for a while now. My dad and his partners. His first one after my mom kind of became his first true love because he had to stick up with my mom since she and him had a one night stand. Well, I guess this love was one sided and she left him for someone else. Not gonna lie, even while being young as hell at that time and fully knowing the fact that she was a horrible parent figure to the three of us, I low key felt bad for him because I could tell he was devastated. Well, as one would imagine, when you have three kids to look after, sometimes you need to put some of your needs aside or at least try to create a balance between the two. But no, my dad decided that becoming a roadside Romeo would be the best thing to do here and embarked on a 20-year-long journey of jumping from one relationship to another, giving us one false hope to another, all the while trying to find someone that reminded him of his first love. This obviously took a mental toll on us, but thankfully we had mom and her partner who, although wasn't perfect, acted more as a father figure than my dad ever did. But as it was once said, good things never last. Both my biological mom and her partner passed away due to a car accident by the time I was 10 years old, and boom, that day we realized we were quite literally going to be screwed. But thankfully, things weren't that bad, thanks to my dad stepping up to do the bare minimum. But his habit of relationship jumping stayed, even after 20 years. Yes, this man had been trying to find the one for himself in his 40s. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but well, if finding the one means finding another version of your ex, then hell yeah, it is wrong. Well, our contact dwindled by the time Julia and I left for college. The only time we talked was for something related to Mario. So it wasn't a shocker when I found out that he had gotten yet another girlfriend, and boy, I can't help but accept the shock I felt when I found out that this was his girlfriend. It was none other than his ex that he had been dating during his early 20s, who broke up with my dad for another man and married him. Not only that, they had been together ever since Julia and I left for college and had two kids together. Well, regardless, I guess I try to be happy for him as he invites me, my brother, and Julie over for lunch. At this point, my brother is in last year of undergrad school. Julie is in postgraduate, and I have started working. Well, we're completely put in the dark about the fact that during this lunch, they were not only going to announce their engagement, but had also invited Destiny's, dad's now fiance, children from her previous marriage, who were very obviously mad at my dad for apparently stealing their mom. Well, needless to say, this meal is disastrous because neither of us were told about the existence of each other, and neither we interested in getting to know each other. Destiny hadn't changed much either, as she constantly glared at us, making sure she just knew that she didn't want us here. Well, we took the clue immediately and decided to leave a bit after the lunch was over before my dad pulled us aside and sat us down in his guest room to discuss. There, he talked about how, as we saw, due to the fact that Destiny's kids were being hostile with them, they knew none of his kids. Yes, this man, for real, called literally grown adults who had no interest talking to him, let alone considering himself as a parental figure, his children. Well, so he talks about how his children are so mad at him that they can't come to his wedding. And since his wedding is a celebration of his love, and we clearly live too far, we live 2 hours away, lol, we don't need to show up at his wedding. Well, at that time, we could see where he was coming from with that. This man had clearly become too good at lying, so we agreed and told him that he could ask us for any help if he needed any, and boy, he did. Not just Julie and I, but Mario too, helped him financially to make his dream wedding come true. And by the way, he was giving us updates. It really felt like he wanted us there. So we made a plan and decided to surprise him at his wedding with gifts. Little did we know that this plan was going to backfire on us. The day of the wedding arrives, and we drive to the small party hall where the wedding is to take place, and oh boy, was it surprising to see all the lies he made up. This wedding was not small, and there were definitely no small amounts of guests showing up. Man, I could literally see people coming from my dad's side of the family who he claimed he hadn't talked to in years, and also his children. I had a horrible feeling in my stomach immediately, as I had just realized we had been lied to in the worst ways possible. But I knew this time I wasn't going to let my dad have his way. After all these years of trying to understand and justify his actions, I was done with him. So I told Julie and Mario to let's go have some fun at our dad's wedding and walked inside. We already got a couple of glares by Destiny's side of the family as well as Dad's side of the family as we proudly went up to anyone who stared at us, telling them that we were indeed the groom's children who were scammed out of money and didn't even get an invite to their own dad's wedding. I know. It was awkward for the guests to hear us trauma dump at an event where they probably only came to eat, but it was satisfying. Well, eventually, after a while, the couple of the year arrive, and I make sure that all three of us are standing right ahead, staring into our dad's soul, who notices us immediately. His face has already turned, while he's looking at Destiny, who keeps giving us the same look she would during our childhood to intimidate us. Well, before the wedding ceremony starts, which we have no interest in attending, obviously, we decide to put the cherry on top of the cake before we're leaving. We just walk up to our dad as I hand him a card to one of the man lawyers I work with, telling him to keep him because I sure will be suing him for the money. This obviously became the topic of conversation even after we left, and my phone has been flooding ever since. And boy, things just get worse here as people, especially from my dad's side of the family, give me crap for backing down after loaning him tens of thousands of dollars. Huh? I am just as confused as you all are here and don't know what to do. One side, I feel conflicted about what I did, and the other is just me feeling completely lost about the money that these people are talking about. Sure, I lend him $1,000, but the fact that they're talking in tens of thousands of dollars is confusing. And it's not just one relative, it's a lot of people saying the same thing. So, after a suggestion from my friend, I am posting here for any advice, judgment, AITA. What should I do here? I was still conflicted as to what to do after reading the mixed suggestions you guys left me. So I was yet to come to a decision until a choice just walked up to me. It was none other than Destiny's youngest son, Ezra. Ezra messaged me on Instagram telling me that he knew who I was and just wanted to talk. So, in hopes of closure, I accepted his DM request and we exchanged numbers to talk. Well, it was actually a really nice talk, and to be honest, the image that I had made of Destiny's Children kind of washed away. He explained to me the entire situation, and it honestly all just made sense to me why there was always so much tension around. So basically, my dad had been going around and telling people that he came up for his and Destiny's dream through my siblings and I, that it was us who loaned it to him, apparently. When asked, how did we, as young adults, come up with such money? He said it was through the inheritance our mum left us. WTF? I had no idea of such inheritance ever existing. Well, he continued by saying that we refused to come to the wedding because it was too far away, and that we didn't want to attend because Destiny's Children would be there. Ezra and his siblings knew this was plain BS, and it was confirmed to them as they saw what all went down at their wedding. Ezra and his siblings did a few small things too that caused a lot of scenes, and instead of blaming Destiny and my dad for this scene, it is their children that have been getting blamed for everything. Being shocked would be an understatement because I know I need to run to the lawyers ASAP. I just know there is something related to money that my dad has done, and it is not looking too pretty. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I will be visiting my lawyer friend. So I will post here when there are any real time updates about this situation. It's been 10 months since I last posted, and boy, calling this a journey would be an understatement. This was more of a roller coaster with more lows than highs. When I first visited the lawyer, I was told to try to find out if my mom had any lawyer of her own. Thankfully, I knew him because my aunt had told me about him. So I got his contact information and first talked to him. That is when he told me that my mom had indeed left inheritance for me and my siblings. It was a couple of tens of thousands of dollars that was the combined savings of both my mom and her partner. It was a trust fund that only my dad had access to, and boy, he sure did take advantage of that. He completely drained out all three of the trust funds, and when I informed the lawyer about everything that went down, he told me that I could not only sue and press charges against him if I won. According to him, with the overwhelming amount of proof, there was a huge chance I could win. So me, Julie, and Mario put some money towards a good lawyer and sued my dad. After trial and trial of my dad trying to save himself, a couple of weeks back the results finally came out and we won the case. We have already received quite a bit of money back as only one of the two trust funds were used for the wedding. He had just taken out the money from the other two trust funds to put towards a house. Well, we're all going to split the money that we currently have until my dad returns us more. We have decided to press charges against him for fraud. Obviously, this has caused Destiny and his relationship to crumble, and we're to be blamed for that, according to her. She has already moved on to another man, and I can see yet another breakdown coming from my dad. Honestly, I don't really care because at least now his true colors are out, not only to his family, but to everyone. And a lot of people have come forward to apologize to us ever since, which feels nice because it's good to know that you're not crazy for doing what you are. Although I lost my dad, I also met Ezra and his siblings who have become great friends to us. So much so that we regularly hang out. So even with a few ups and downs, I will count this as a positive update, and thanks to you all that I got the strength to fight this battle. NTA, it was so satisfying to read how you guys humiliated him. F what anyone else says, because after everything he has done, this is the least amount of repercussion he can face. NTA, but look out for your finances because I wouldn't find it surprising if this man actually did something to mess up your finances. I want to make sure my children have a good standard in life, as I'm quite comfortable myself as an entrepreneur. I pay a good amount of child support to them, an equivalent of $10,000, 5,000 each, monthly. This was not an order by the state, but requested by me. I want them to be able to live comfortably and not struggle. I also pay for their health care, insurance bills, etc., and private school. However, I went to pick them up this past Thursday as they would be with me until Sunday. When I picked them up, I noticed they were wearing some old clothes, which didn't seem like a problem. They were just home before I got them, so I thought they were just in what they felt comfortable. Unfortunately, that wasn't really the case. When we got home and I was unpacking their bags, I noticed all the clothes they brought were old and tattered. I asked my daughter why were their clothes so tattered. I mean, kids usually have favorite pieces of clothing, so I thought this was the case. She told me that her mother said they couldn't buy new clothes because she was saving up. Now, this was a bit strange. If they were planning an expensive situation, she could have reached out and I'd pay for the kids. They're also my children. She never mentioned anything. I took both of them out that day and bought plenty of new clothes. That being said, this was something that really bothered me. My brother and his came by that night, and I talked to him about that. They also thought it was a very strange situation and that I should look into it. Now, I don't have the best relationship with my ex, and I'm not going to poke my nose in her life. So I called Child Protective Services and told them what happened and I was concerned. And here in my country, they investigate this kind of thing. Well, my ex just called me and she was absolutely enraged. A-hole was the less aggressive adjective she used for me. Apparently, she was indeed saving the child support for something, but she never told me what. Regardless, she's extremely irritated, and my mother and father seem to agree that I should have talked to her first. I was concerned, but Reddit? AITA here? NTA, I don't think a lot of people here realize what CPS does. I'm an elementary school teacher, so I'm fairly familiar with CPS, and it's not like they are some child police who rip families apart. They actually have a lot of great resources, and home visits can be incredibly helpful and shouldn't be frowned upon. You absolutely did the right thing by contacting CPS. I'm a mandated reporter, and it sounds perfectly reasonable to me. My dad met his wife when I was 10. She had two kids. Her daughter was 7 and her son was 5. Their dad walked out on them and they had not seen him since, where my mom died when I was 8. My dad and his wife sat me down when they were getting serious and told me her daughter would need me to look out for her because she's special needs and has Down syndrome. They told me I would be her big sister now, and it was important I be a good one because she would always have trouble. I told them I didn't want to be a big sister, and they said what I wanted wasn't important because it was happening, and she would need me more than he would. So ever since that little talk, it has been on my shoulders to make sure she's okay. Kids being me, I need to help. She doesn't have anyone to hang out with her. I need to do it. I don't want to. I get a lecture. I resent it. I do. I don't resent her. I know it's not her fault, but I never wanted to do any of this stuff. I never signed up to be a babysitter, but especially now, that's what I am. If they want to go anywhere, I have to stay with my stepsister, and she's very attached to me. Like she is clingy and needy with me, and I know she loves me a lot. She's more attached to me than she is to her brother or her mother for that matter. She will choose me over her mom in a lot of things. I'm even told to hold her hand when we're out if she doesn't want to hold her mom's hand. I hate all of it. I'm 17 now, and the end of my time here is drawing closer, and I plan to move out ASAP and not come back home for any weekends or any day visits. My dad's wife is aware of this too. She has heard me make plans, and she and my dad have started trying to convince me to stick around. Even worse, they have taken 3 of my weekends in the last 2 months and made me babysit her daughter for the entire weekends. They are trying to add pressure for me to not just dip from their lives because it would crush my stepsister. This past week, I had enough, and I lost it when it was just me and my dad and his wife at home. They were making plans for next weekend, and I told them I had never signed up for the job of always being a babysitter, and that if they thought I would feel guilty for leaving it all behind, then they were wrong, because I can't wait to leave, and I won't miss any of them when I'm gone. My dad started yelling at me and asking how could I be so cold and I was an a-hole for acting like being part of the family and being part of my little sister's life was a chore. Tension has been present ever since, and I see that my stepsister is really bothered by it. She started crying when she got home that day, and she's cried a lot more since. More than is normal for her. I am being blamed. AITA? Parentification is a form of abuse. NTA. They choose to have this child. It is their responsibility to see to her needs, not yours. Get out of that house and don't take any more babysitting.